Welcome to the Awakening Women podcast. I'm your host, Leanne Oaten, and for almost a decade, I have been a transformation coach and therapist. This podcast is all about lifting the veil of consciousness and awakening to the truth. It is also about helping you to raise the bar in all areas of your life and relationships by starting with you. If you're ready to take back your personal power and reclaim your life, you have come to the right place. I'm so glad that you're here, so let's get started with today's episode. I don't like to talk about diagnosing someone or putting labels on someone, but what I've been talking about here on the podcast for the past 5 years since I started Awakening Women Support is the red flags and indicators that you are likely dealing with someone who is at least high on the narcissism spectrum. If you want to learn more about that, check out Dr. Craig Malkin's book, Rethinking Narcissism. I'm not going to go too far into this, but what I love about his book on this is it kind of puts to rest this whole is it a narcissism or not thing, because he talks about how there's a scale and a range and we all have traits, and we have certain traits that flare up during stress or certain times in our lives, and where to know when it tips over into the line of someone having NPD or having it enough that it causes significant issues in a relationship where it's harming other people. And I don't go too much into that on this podcast because it's not really my intent. Like, definitely do your research. You need to know what you're dealing with, because if it is that, then we need to get honest with the truth that if someone is truly high on that narcissistic spectrum, they're not able to empathize, they cannot connect with you emotionally, nor do they want to. They're not able to take feedback. They get defensive. They gaslight. They throw blame. They shift the subject rather than sitting with what you're bringing to them. And it's coming from that narcissistic place. The chances of that changing are, I would say, pretty much zero. I've never seen a situation where someone I've worked with over the past 5 years, I don't have one story where it ended well in the way that the women were wanting it to. I've not experienced one story like that. I did do one interview on this podcast of one story with one of the ladies that joined early on my program in the cycle, but other than that, and I haven't followed up with her to know what happened there, and perhaps her partner was lower on the end and he was actually able to make some real change. But what I have seen over and over and over again is women believing that they are changing or that they're promising to change, and they keep giving these chances only to end up blindsided once again, realizing, oh my God, how am I here again? I can't believe I gave this another chance. I feel like an idiot. I feel stupid. Here I am again. It's not going to change. And we keep bashing our head against the wall with repeated behaviors that are not changing. And being convinced, allowing ourselves to be convinced that someone with these types of behaviors is going to just be able to snap their fingers and change their personality traits that cause them to be controlling and emotionally and mentally abusive, verbally abusive, to mess with your mind, to twist reality, bend reality, shift reality from what it actually is, so that they don't have to take accountability for their bad behavior. So if you are actually dealing with someone like that, the chances of it changing, no matter what you do, are very, very unlikely, if not 0%. There's a statistic thrown around out there I've seen many times that it's 1%. Who knows? Again, I don't really like to go into that, although it does serve a purpose, because once you realize that things are not going to change no matter what you do, that your reality is going to stay the same, that you will have to learn to live with the cycles and the behaviors and the frustration, and not having someone you can connect to emotionally, someone that really is there for you, that has your back, that cares. If you can survive with that disconnected half relationship, then sure, you could salvage it and save it and make it work. But you're not going to be able to change the other person. In order for them to change, they're going to have to do a significant, grueling amount of work And that's after they realize they have a problem and they're able to admit they are the problem, when all they ever do is point the finger at everyone else and everything else is the problem, that it's not them. So there's a lot of barriers to this whole thing. My goal, and what I have had as a goal all along when I started my End the Cycle program, was to help you to do the inner work through a process that focuses on you, that is not about here's how to save your relationship, but here's the things that you need to do to discover if this is going to be changed. First, you need to see the definitive cycles and behaviors that point toward that, yes, you are definitely experiencing this type of dynamic. And then here's the work you need to do in order to make your decision about whether you're going to stay or go. And here's the realistic outcome if you stay in it. And if you're ready and you get to the place where you want to leave and you see you have to, then I provide you with a step-by-step process for how to start creating your exit plan, staying safe, even doing it in secret so that you're not flaring things up, and behind the scenes you're making your exit strategy. So my goal has never been to say, here's how you can change in order to stay and make it work. Some women do choose to stay and make it work. For the time being, for now, you can choose that. You are fully at choice what you decide to do. So I've never wanted to say that through you focusing on your own patterns and your own work, then it's going to fix him or fix things in the relationship. What it does do is it fixes you so that you can start to see things more clearly and rule out and feel like, okay, I've actually done everything that I know on my end, and this is not going to change. And you have to get to that level of acceptance and start strengthening yourself to be able to get out, because you'll realize soon, eventually, as you start doing this work, that in order for you to have the peace and fulfillment and joy in your life and to take back your health and regain your energy, you're not going to be able to do it within the relationship. And so when you get to that place, then you can start making different choices. But there's a lot of women, you might be one of them, that are in this with a house and assets and kids and pets and all kinds of complications that make it really difficult for someone to just say you need to get out. It feels like a pipe dream because you might have a whole lot of stuff that you need to figure out before you can even do that. And so what I do in the program is also help you, okay, so what do you do in the meantime if that's the case? You can't leave, you're staying for now, that's your choice. So how do you empower yourself in the meantime? How do you start taking care of yourself in the meantime? What are the things behind the scenes you need to start looking at for that impending potential separation that you might need to prepare for a year or two or more in advance maybe? And if you're in a situation where it's very volatile, there's substance abuse or physical abuse, violence, that's a whole other level that I would never say stay for now and figure it out until then, right? There's different levels to this. I'm not saying that emotional, psychological abuse isn't harmful, because it absolutely is. And there are times when someone like this, while what they do is harmful, you can set some limits and inner boundaries, internal boundaries, external boundaries, boundaries with them that will help protect you in the meantime if you're not in any physical danger or your children aren't in any physical danger. So I just want to clarify that. So that aside, if you are still in the relationship and you want to strengthen yourself and do that work to know that you've tried everything there is to try and that this relationship is not salvageable because your partner has severe or high narcissistic traits that are showing up in the gaslighting, manipulation, lying, infidelity, the absolute emotional dysregulation, like they're not able to be there for you emotionally whatsoever. These are the things that show up over and over and over and over again as a pattern in the relationship that point toward there's something here going on that is likely never going to change, no matter what you do. And then you can start making decisions around, well, if that's the case, and I can accept that this is never going to change, can I accept that? And if I cannot, if I know I cannot stay in this, if it never changes, then what? So what do I need to do? And you need to build yourself up to get to that place. So if that's where you're at and you want my process that I've walked countless women through over the last 5 years, you can get the self-study program. I'm not running it live at this time, but you can get the self-study, self-paced program by heading to the link in the show notes. Or apparently I ended up with some kind of hacking or something that happened on my previous page. So I always have pointed you toward leanneoten.com/evolve, but that link, for whatever reason, it doesn't work. So couldn't figure out why, but something has happened. So the new page is leanneoten.com/evolve-registration. And I'll put that in the show notes if you're interested. So it's really important to get the clarity to know, is it me, right? Because a lot of you are asking that. Is it me? Is it him? Is it both of us? Is this all my fault? Have I done everything I can? And this can be part of the manipulation that's brought forward from the other person because, again, they are shifting the blame for why it's not working, why there's no sex, why you're so cold, why you're so angry, why, all everything that's happening that's crap is your fault. And so you take that on and you believe, I must be the one misreading things. I must be the one that's crazy. I must be overreacting. I'm angry. I'm this, I'm that. And you take that on, and that's one of your toxic traits, right? That you take that on and go, wait a second, no. And to be able to see it clearly that, no, that's actually not what's happening here. And instead of taking on all of that blame, you can see, well, I have done everything. There's nothing else I can try. And this is not changing despite the fact that I have done everything. And that was my main goal when I created the program, was to help you get to that conclusion. So if you're wondering, is there things I haven't tried? I feel like I'd want to give it every chance before I throw in the towel or give up. I walk you through tests and conversations you can have and ways that you can change what you're doing to see, is it changeable? And the only way that it could possibly maybe be changeable is if there is very low narcissistic traits, like tendencies that are showing up, and the person is able to see that they're contributing to the problem, that they have a problem, that they don't like what it feels like, and they're willing to do the work to change, and they're willing to stop putting all the blame on you. But you're not going to know that until you know it for yourself through doing the work, showing up, doing things differently. And through all that, it becomes clear whether this situation is changeable or not. And that's the goal. The goal is never to stay and cope and manage if you're truly experiencing narcissistic abuse and mental emotional manipulation. If you're experiencing ongoing gaslighting and lying and infidelity, like, you can't survive in that. It's so toxic and unhealthy. There's no way you can thrive in that environment, no matter what you're doing. So I hope this is helpful and it's giving you some food for thought. If you're ready to take that next step, then dive into my program. That's going to help you get the clarity you need to know whether it's time to go and how to actually take those steps to get there, if that's where you're at. If you're not there and you're still stuck in that place of I don't know what to do, the program walks you through the inner work you need to do to make that decision for yourself. Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Awakening Women podcast. If you love this show and it has served you and helped you on your journey, please take a moment right now and leave a rating and review in iTunes and Spotify. If you'd like more daily content, videos, and inspiration, come on over and join me at Awakening Women Support Official over on Instagram, where we can connect and you can continue your transformation and growth journey. And I'll see you online. Take care.